Good morning. Here we are, our second fully live new season of talks. I'm going to actually have my glasses on, although I probably should have properly cleaned them before I put them back on my face, just so that I can see more easily, and also my eyes are up today. Welcome. If you're watching us live, welcome. Family here in person. I don't really know what kind of week you've had. I know my week, and I obviously know the family that I live with, what our week has been like. Um, but for me, it's quite blurry, so I'm just going to put my glasses up and hope my eyes behave themselves. Um, it's been a week of highs and lows. I used to belong to several small groups, and very often they would start the evenings with highs and lows. And actually, if I'm honest, I used to dread it. I used to dread um, having to come up with a high and then also choose to be vulnerable enough to share a low. Um, because for those of you that know me, and if you don't know me, people have a habit of saying, "Oh, Miranda, you're so authentic, you're so um, real," um, and I find it very difficult to not speak exactly what's going on for me. And so, although as would go around in the room, and people would sort of choose, um, quite a usually quite a brilliant high, but very often the low that they would share would be quite tepid. Whereas it would get to me, and I'd all the way around the room, I'd be thinking, "Oh no, I don't want to share what my low has been this week," because compared to everybody else, it's like really, revealing the grit in my life. Um, anyway, I feel like my week this week has been maybe not the extreme highs. They've been more like resting on a gentle breeze, sort of gentle. A bit. It's felt a little bit. My highs probably felt a little bit like resting with Jesus, who he describes himself as, meek and lowly and humble. But my lows have certainly been uh, very evident to me this week, and so I'll probably get to them. But I'm just going to recap on last week. So last week we began the group of talks talking about family traits. I mean, that's the overarching body of talks. But last week I just used the piece of scripture in Matthew 11: "Come to me, all who labour and are weary, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon me, for I am meek and lowly, gentle and humble. Learn from me, and I will bring you rest." That piece of scripture. And we're actually and I talked about probably just the first bit of that scripture, the invitation to come to me. Jesus doesn't command it. It's not a rule. It's not a law. It's an invitation. And so we have this free gift that's been put on the table, and it's ours to choose whether or not we actually want to pick it up. He starts with, "Come to me, come to me, come to me." And it's funny, I was reading this morning how there's a number of times, and I think it's in the 30s, that Jesus says throughout the four Gospels, "Come, follow me." But there's only, I think, one or possibly a few times when he says, "Come to me." The command is come to him. He doesn't just want us to follow him, he wants us to come to him. Which makes me think about when my children are upset, and I comfort them. I don't comfort them from a distance. There's a proximity. I embrace them. I pull them into me. And I actually think in this very beginning part of this tiny little bit of scripture that exists across the whole of his word, And, it's 3 or 4 lines. It's not very much. But there's this invitation for us to come to him like we would if we are going to go to our parent, if we're hurting, if we are weary, if we are worn out, to come to him to rest, to be embraced by him. So there's a nearness, there's an invitation to get close to Jesus. And then I talked about last week about how there's an invitation. The second invitation is to take his yoke, to put it upon ourselves. And I think I talked about how I think for some Christians, they're still deciding whether or not they're actually going to put that yoke on their shoulders. I've been guilty of that myself in the early days. I think it took me a really long time to even start telling people I was a Christian. I didn't want to be judged because I had judged Christians. I thought they were boring. I thought they were irrelevant. And also I thought they were hypocrites. I didn't see them. I guess I didn't see the family trait, the DNA of Jesus, the love, the grace, the humility. Now we're going to get onto that, but that's not today. But there is this invitation for us to lift, to pick up his yoke and put it across our shoulders and to tether ourselves to him, which is also proximity. There's a second proximity invitation. We're to come to him, we're to get close so he can hold us up, and we're to put a yoke on ourselves so we also tether ourselves to Jesus. So we are side by side to him. So we are walking our lives next to him, that we remain with him, allowing him to lead us, allowing him to guide us. I think for me this week, I've had several opportunities for God to, which is the third bit that Jesus says after we've picked up the invitation and we've got close to him, after we've decided that, yes, we are going to actually put the yoke on our shoulders and we are going to tether ourselves to Jesus. There's a third bit which I want to talk about today. And I'm going to use, first of all, I'm going to read it from my CSB, and then I'm going to read it from the Passion Translation. Put my glasses back on. So, as I said, it starts with, come to me. There's the invitation. And who's he asking to come to him? He's asking everyone, all of you who are weary and burdened. And I talked about that last week. I feel, that's an open invitation to absolutely everybody. I think everybody on this planet today, if you're alive, you're going to feel weary and probably you're going to feel burdened. Maybe not every second of every day, but these are tough times that we are living in. These are tough times, and not just because of COVID, but the state of the world. These are tough times. And I will give you rest. Get close to Jesus, put the yoke on, tether your life to him. Stay close. Get close, stay close. I think that's probably the first message. And when you do that, you're going to experience him giving you his rest. Take up my yoke and learn from me. And that's the bit that I want to sit in this morning. Learn from me. He tells us why we should learn from him too, because I'm lowly. Some translations actually say meek and lowly, or gentle is another translation actually for that word. He also says, and humble in heart. So Jesus is actually giving himself a character reference. He's describing who he is. He's lowly or meek or gentle. So he's not going to deal harshly with you. He's not going to be hard or critical. He's gentle. That's why we can feel free to come to him. And he's humble in heart. So he's not proud, which means he's not going to sit in judgment. The pride elevate and look down on others. Jesus says he's humble in heart. His heart is humble. And when you meet someone who's humble, who walks in humility, you know it. You know when you're in their presence. I never met the Dalai Lama, but everything I've seen of him and everything I've heard of him and everything I've read of him and the video clips I've seen of him, he was a man who walked in humility. He didn't see himself as better than others. He exuded gentleness and grace everywhere he went. Jesus says he's humble in heart. He's not elevating himself. He has a humility about himself, which also means when you meet someone that walks in humility or is humble, they are very open to learn. They are very willing to be moved off what they believe to be a certain way onto another way, if it's been proven to be the right way, which is how Jesus walked his life with his Father. Not my will be done, yet not my will be done but yours. Right at the end of his life here on earth, he said that. And when, after he's described himself and why we should do what he's asking us to do, he then gives us the brilliant result, which is we'll find rest for our souls. Well, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want rest for their soul? I think I talked about it last week and the ways that we in the 21st century try and find rest for our souls. Box sets, Netflix, alcohol, drugs, relationships, sex, shopping, stuff, job titles, holidays, you name it, we can fill it up. All of it is searching for rest. But Jesus actually is the place where we really find rest for our souls, where we're met with grace, where we're met with mercy, where we're met with kindness, comfort. And he goes on to say, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And I've talked about this before, how I've often experienced it not feeling easy or light as a walk as a Christian. But I wonder if that's because I'm in those moments, the ox that's desperately trying to pull the cart in the opposite direction. You know, like I've often described myself as a salmon. I felt like a salmon swimming upstream. And sometimes actually God will put us in positions and places and ask of us something that will make us definitely stand out from the crowd, that will definitely make us look ridiculous or different or unusual. But he does that so actually we can be the city on a hill, the light on a lampstand for all to see. I think the trouble is that often the city on the hill and the light on the lampstand at the moment in the church, and by that I mean us, shines just the world and doesn't shine Jesus. And I think that's the group of talks that we're in right now. How do we actually shine Jesus? How can we be the city on the hill that people want to go up to and hang out in and move into and build a house themselves and be part of that community? The only way that we can do that is if we actually do what Jesus asks us to do right here in Matthew 11, which is to come to him, to stick to him, to stay close to him, to tether our life to him, to tether our souls to him, to tether our hearts, our will, and our emotions to him. In other words, to surrender to him and then let him guide us. Because where he goes and where we follow, he will light our path and he will bring us rest. And it's much, if there's two of you shouldering a burden, I know when sometimes we go shopping and the bags are too heavy and we can't get them out of the car, especially when I'm with my youngest, we'll take a handle each and we'll share the load. And it's much easier to carry the bag. I think the trouble is a lot of the time, we're so busy trying to do it ourselves. Or if we've actually stuck the yoke on our shoulders, like I said, deciding that, no, it's this way. Jesus, come on. We've got to go this way. In fact, often I don't think we even include Jesus. We don't invite him to come with us. We just go strolling off that way, dragging Jesus, the yoke, and the cart in the wrong direction. No wonder it feels exhausting. No wonder it feels like a burden. No wonder it feels like hard work. No wonder we get worn out. However, I want to back up a little bit. Let me just read it from the Passion Translation. And I'm actually going to start a bit earlier because when I was reading this morning, something struck me. So I'm actually going to start Matthew 11. I'm going to start at 26 instead of 28. So in the Passion Translation, it reads like this. Yes, Father, this is Jesus talking. Your plan delights your heart. You must imagine God up there going, this is brilliant. My son's down there. I've got this great plan. The enemy isn't going to see it. And I'm going to redeem my beautiful children once and for all. It delights God's heart to send Jesus. Yes, Father, your plan delights your heart as you've chosen this way to extend your kingdom. And what's the way that he's chosen? Jesus says, by giving it to those who have become like trusting children. In other translations, I think it says like infants. The reason why it's talking about children when you're a certain age, children will follow their parents anywhere when they're tiny, before they really understand the no and I have a will. But if you're holding a baby would just go wherever the parent is. I was looking after a baby this week. You know, she didn't get herself up and walk and put herself down on her like exercise mat, her play mat. I put her there. She didn't choose her clothes. Well, actually, her mum put her in this beautiful little flamingo vest, but somebody else dressed her. What she could do was say, I'm hungry, feed me. And suddenly there was this bottle of milk. My bottom's dirty, my nappy needs changing. She got wiped and changed. She's learning to coo and to talk and to watch the face that's in front of her and repeating what she sees. If you smile at her, actually she starts smiling back. So she's mirroring what she sees. Now, if we've done what Jesus asks of us, if we've come to him and allowed him to be that near to us and we've tethered ourselves to him, we've yoked ourselves to him, a bit like a baby in a papoose, then wherever he goes, we will be going too. And the face that we're going to see and learn from and mimic will be the one that's right in front of us. Just like Morgan is learning from her mom and anyone else that's in front of her, this close. And you have to be really close to a baby because in the beginning they don't see that far. They just see, and they also, in the beginning, they don't see colour. They see in black and white. There's only black and white. They learn colour, but it's much more simplified for them. Isn't that interesting? It's more simple than I have to deal with highly complex things in the beginning. They're fed on milk to begin with. I mean, later we're going to get into how Paul said, you need to mature. You were fed on milk because you were new Christians, new in the faith, new in following Jesus. But, I want to feed you on the meat. I want to feed you on the stuff that will sustain you, that will hold you, that will keep you standing in times of trial, but you're still acting like children. You've got to mature. Jesus says, come to me, get close, tether yourself to me, climb into the papoose, put the yoke on your shoulders, surrender. Then you're going to walk wherever I walk. I'm going to feed you what you need, and you can learn from me, just like babies do, because my face is going to be this close to you. Now, if you're learning from Jesus, and he's described himself as meek and lowly, humble and gentle, that's what you're actually going to be learning. How to walk humbly, act justly, love mercy. And when that learning is put into practice, people will notice that lamp light on a lampstand will start to shine Jesus. That city on a hill will start to look really attractive, and people will want to come and build their houses and move into that community. Anyway, I digress. To get to the Passion Translation. You've chosen this way to extend your kingdom by giving it to those who've become like trusting children. So, point 1 for today, we need to become like trusting children. Or even, in other translations, infants. I think that's probably more accurate. Man has a tendency to elevate himself. If you start thinking of it as a trusting children, you're probably going to start seeing yourself as maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10, maybe 11, maybe 12. Think of it more like a baby, fully surrendered, trusting in the person whose arms they rest in. That's the image I think that Jesus wants you to get. You have entrusted me with all that you are. This is Jesus talking to God, and all that you have. And he says, no one fully and intimately knows the Son. No one knows me truly, not fully or intimately, other than you, God, except the Father. And no one fully and intimately knows the Father except the Son. And no one is going to know you the way I know you, Dad. Nobody. But the Son is able to unveil the Father to anyone he chooses. And who is Jesus choosing? He's choosing, are you weary? Carrying a heavy burden? Then come to me. This is who he's choosing. This is who he's inviting. He's inviting all of us, every single one of us. And by inviting us and asking us to learn from him, he is going to unveil the Father to us so that we can know the Father as intimately and as fully as he does. Why wouldn't you want to pick up that invitation? Are you weary, carrying a heavy burden? I've got something for you. I'm offering you something. I'm inviting you to come to me. Then come to me. I will refresh your life, for I am your oasis. In other words, I am going to be your bottle. I'm going to hold you in my arms because you're going to stay this close. You're going to be tethered to me in the papoose. And when you're thirsty, I'm going to give you what you need because I'm the oasis. I'm your milk bottle. I'm your river of life. But there's something we have to do. He's telling us what we need to do, why we need to do it, but we have to do something. Learn my ways. 3 words. That's it, actually. That's the point of this talk today. Learn my ways. And you'll discover that I'm gentle, humble, easy to please. You will find refreshment and rest in me. For all that I require of you will be pleasant and easy to bear. And I think, I'm just going to let that sit. Because I can almost hear I don't find it always pleasant. I don't find it always easy to bear. I haven't actually found this week pleasant or easy to bear in its fullness. My high would be at the start of the week, the weather in England, I don't know where you're watching this from, was glorious. We've had pretty mediocre summer here, to be honest. It's barely got going. It certainly can't be described as hot. It's been more like, the dying days of autumn or the early days of spring, mostly. And yet this week, the week the children went back to school last week, we had 2 days, 3 days of outrageously glorious weather. And when the weather's like that, my soul comes alive. I'm definitely made for the heat, although I'm also made for the cold. I like snow too. I like mountains and skiing. I like sunshine. I love nature. And when it's sunny, I get all inspired to cook. What I cook is an awful lot more interesting. I want to be outside. I want to eat outside. I'm kind of like some Mediterranean, wannabe. It just kind of rises up in my soul, and I can't help myself. And I took my no, I didn't take my son. I took Elaine, who lives with us, and we went down to Birch for one of the days, which is a beautiful place that I'm very privileged to be a member of. And it has an outdoor Lido, or Lido, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. And sat and I swam. It's an unheated pool. So some of you might think that's not that much of a blessing, but it was just glorious. And for 2 days, 3 days, I was like, yes, summer's here. And I was kind of, people were going, oh, yeah, well, enjoy it today because tomorrow that's it. It's over and winter is here. And I was like, no, let's just declare that maybe summer's going to last and we're going to have an Indian summer and it's going to be amazing. My birthday is coming up in October. And I was like, let's just have it be sunny and glorious all the way through to my birthday. God is that good. He could do that. Lord, please, I love the sun. Can we just have a summer, even if that's in September and October? That would be my high this week. And it was brilliant. My low, I'm still using immune suppressants for the illness that I've been battling for almost a year now. And I'm supposed to use it twice a week. And Tuesday morning when I woke up, I hadn't put the cream on. And so I decided, I need to do it tonight. And Wednesday morning when I woke up, I hadn't put the cream on. I forgot on Tuesday night. And so by Wednesday morning, I was thinking, okay, well, as fast as whatever this is has arrived, maybe it will go. So maybe I just won't use the cream. And so I stopped. And I haven't been putting it on my face. And as the week has gone on, my skin has started to get itchy again, and my eyes have started to get sore. And today, probably if I stood a bit nearer to the camera, you'll see that my eyelids are puffed up and I'm puffed up underneath. I actually want to scratch my eyeballs out. So this morning, I have relented and restarted the immune suppressant treatment. And mixed in with that, I've also had various other experiences, all of which brought up an awful lot of upset and a lot of I'm not good enough. And so this morning, when I was sitting with God, just having some quiet time and asking him, what did he want me to talk on today? And where are we going? And I just felt his love actually rest on me. And this very quiet request to rest my head on his shoulder, like you would with a parent if you're exhausted, and to trust him. And that actually is really today just a very simple message. Are you willing to learn from Jesus? Will you let him guide you? Will you stay tethered with him and not constantly keep pulling in the opposite direction when something over there looks more attractive or more interesting or more you than where you currently find yourself? And when things don't really go the way that you hope and disappointment rises up in your soul, will you still choose to lift your hands in worship? Will you still choose to stay, to trust, to wait on the Lord? Still choosing, like a rock, immovable, to declare, my God is good. And even if he doesn't do what I want him to do in the time that I want him to do it, or ever, he's still good and he's still God, and his ways are not my ways. His ways are higher than my ways. And I would choose to follow him all the days of my life, wherever he goes and whatever it looks like. And I will deal with my disappointment so it doesn't become an offense. I will take it to the one person who deeply wants to know, is deeply interested. He's so interested. He's actually living on the inside of me, waiting for me to slow down, sit down, take a load off by telling him how I'm feeling. I mean, he knows anyway. Actually, the truth is, the reason why he wants us to do it isn't so that we inform him, it's so that we unburden ourselves. But then you've got to stick around. It's not a snack and grab and go. It's not a drive-through McDonald's. It's a stay. Abide with me. Rest. Stop. So he can then speak to us. And he does. I promise you he does. The trouble is, you've got to deal with the uncomfortability when you're waiting. All the noise and all that, oh yeah, I've got to go and do this and I must go and do that. If any of you have ever tried meditation, and I have, which actually was just grafted out of Jesus. It's not a New Age thing. It's not a Buddhist thing. It's actually a Jesus walking with his dad thing. When he went out to the quiet places, he was going to speak with his father and listen and learn and get instructed from and taught and filled up so he could go and feed 5,000 and teach multitudes and not wear himself out because he was filled up with all that his dad wanted to give him so he could give it away. So when we come to Jesus, when we pick up the invitation, when we sit down and rest and tether ourselves to him and only go where he goes instead of where we want, what we want, how we want, when we want it, which is how the world lives. And I get that it's difficult. I get that it's hard not to be in and of the world. But Jesus told us not to. That doesn't mean we go and live in cliques and we have nothing to do with everybody else and they're all terrible and we're so right. What he was really saying was, learn from me, don't learn from the world. Learn my ways. Because when you follow my ways, you will have rest. You will be fed stuff that feeds you, that gives you life, it gives you hope, it gives you peace, it gives you strength, it gives you certainty when everything around you is uncertain. And when you hit disappointments, if you're tethered to him, if you're leaning in on him, if you're tucked in the papoose like a baby, you get to cry. Babies cry. They cry a lot. You know, they don't tell themselves, I won't cry today. What's the point? It won't make any difference. Oh, I won't cry. It makes my eyes sore and puffy and red. Oh, I won't cry. It makes me look weak. Oh, I won't cry. It's a stupid emotion. Got to be tough. Got to be strong. Got to be. Ugh. Babies open their mouth and they cry. When they're fed up, they cry. When they're bored, they cry. When they're hungry, they cry. When their bums are dirty or wet, they cry. When something is off, they cry. When they want your attention, they cry. Maybe we just need to cry a bit more. Maybe we just need to get a bit more real about how we feel. With the one person who will actually take it off us when we unburden our souls. The thing is, it isn't just that you sit and you have a good old moan to Jesus. When you cry out to him, he's close. There's a bit that follows, and it was right there. Learn from me. And it starts by allowing him to speak into the rot and the rubbish and the disappointments. and the pain and the I don't get it, why it's still here and it hasn't been healed. But he talks and he moves and he loves and he cares and he wants the best for you, for his children. And if you wait on the Lord, excuse me, oh, if you wait on the Lord, he will restore your soul, revive you, refresh you. Just because it doesn't look how you think it needs to look according to the world that you live in. Only good things happen to Christians. Who says that? You know, the whole prosperity mentality that's out there at the moment, that's rife in America. I'm not saying that God wants us to be impoverished, sackcloth and ashes. That's what I used to think that Christians had to be like. But if you look in the New Testament at how they lived, they had a lifestyle. Nobody had any lack because everybody shared. So we're supposed to be generous. I think this is probably another talk, but I'm just going to start here because I feel to today. They shared everything they had amongst each other. There's a generosity. Are you known for your generosity, or are you a bit tight-fisted? Or do you give away what you're happy to give away, and what you don't want to give away, you kind of keep in your back pocket, but you make it seem like you're this super generous? It's easy to give away a lot when you've got a lot. Do you give away your time? They lived in community with one another. They one another to each other. They walked with each other. That's what actually discipling means. Apprentice, learning. If babies learn mimicking from their faces that they see this close, we're supposed to learn from Jesus. And we're going to get into it. But the four Gospels, particularly Matthew, it shows you how he lived, who he was, what he did. Actually, I'm sorry, but there's actually no excuse why Christians can't live like Jesus, because it's right there in the word. You could read the Message. That's an easy translation. It's a paraphrase, but we're supposed to learn from him. It requires us to become meek and lowly and humble and gentle. And mostly it requires us to get honest with him, to cry out to him, and to rest with him, and to let him feed us, let him lead us, and then let him teach us, so that when we've unburdened our souls and we've finished having a good old rant at Jesus about how it might not be fair, or why is it still here? I don't get it, but I do get you and I do trust you. So actually, I'm just going to keep my head right here on your shoulder because I'm knackered and I'm tired and it feels pretty rubbish. And I'm going to let you restore my soul. I'm not going to try and do it myself. I'm not going to go and eat a bag of gummy bears or Mau Wow chews or lose myself in a movie so I don't have to think about how I feel. I'm not going to get busy. I'm not going to go shopping. I'm not going to do any of it. I'm just going to stay here. And I'm going to keep my head on your shoulder and I'm going to rest and I'm going to let you fill me. I'm not going to go and fill me. When we stay in that posture, we will find that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Because you'll find that what he wants to say to you is full of grace and full of mercy, full of kindness, full of gentleness, humility, and mostly full of love. He will tell you how much he loves you. He will tell you how he died for you so that you would be free to be fully righteous, to come into a close relationship with his dad in the way that he's got it with his dad. He wants us to know that we are good enough, that we are loved, we are seen, we are accepted. And healing is ours for the taking. So we shouldn't stop running after that. And we certainly shouldn't be afraid to keep praying for healing, because Jesus modeled that. He healed to point to his dad. He healed to point to the power that his father had, that we now have. And we get to hear how precious we are. Not a nothing, not a disappointment. Loved, seen, accepted, chosen, at home. Man, wouldn't you want to move into that city? Wouldn't you want to build a house and never leave it? Wouldn't you want to climb into that papoose and have that face, the face of love, staring at you all day, every day, speaking words of encouragement and hope and love and peace and joy into you every second of the day? That's the invitation that we've got. But we have to do stuff. We have to accept the invitation. We have to hitch ourselves, tether our lives to Jesus, and then we have to learn from him. So that is what we are going to do over the next few months. We're going to learn from him. And we've got a choice. We have a choice. We can hear it and be like the seed that gets blown away. We can hear it and let the world choke it out. We can hear it and we can let it grow roots in us and change us from the inside out, so that we become salt, light, hands and feet, a city on a hill, a light on a lampstand. And we are Jesus. Stick a rock straight down the middle, break it open, Jesus. You can't do it yourself. You can't make yourself be like Jesus. You can't make yourself be more patient. You can't make yourself meek and lowly. You can't. You can't fabricate it. Not sustainably. The only way you can do it is to come to him, tether yourself to him, put his yoke on your shoulders, stick close to him, and then learn from him. That's the invitation today. Who wants to do that? Because I do. I'm fully in, above my head. I'm not just knee deep. I'm right in there. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean it's always great. It doesn't mean it's always brilliant. And it doesn't mean you're always going to feel high. It doesn't. But he's never going to leave you. He's never going to forsake you. Just stay in that peace and keep staring at his face and learn from him. And we're going to get on to the how and what that means over the next few, I don't know, Sundays, however long it is. So have a great Sunday. Excuse the emotion. It's real. Life is real. It gets tough. But I know the one who is in me is far greater than the one who is in the world. Jesus beat Satan hands down. It's not a competition. It's not in question. There's no doubt about it. So I am fully following Jesus, because he is the way, the truth, and the life. And no one gets to go to Dad unless they go through him. So that's where I'm going. That way. Jesus. Just Jesus. Let's learn from him. And it's actually exciting. It's not dull. It's anything but dull. That'll be another time. Have a great week. Thank you for coming, being part of church. And I look forward to seeing you or talking to you. Maybe seeing you in person too. Come in person. Come to the church. Be great to have you. If you live nearby, if you're in Bedfordshire, come. Have a good week. Take care. God bless.